over another cost of production report, and please print out exercise 810. You have the packet on Moodle with exercise 810 in it, and you also have the solution behind that. So I'd encourage you to print that out and actually read it and think about it a little bit. Give it your best shot on where you think it goes before you watch this video and see how close you did. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is figure out what in the world we're doing. So we make floor mats for the automobile industry. They pass through 2 departments, and I've got May data for the cutting department. So hopefully you've already read that. I'm just going to do a complete cost of production report. You can check the answers to A, B, C, D, and E from the solution that I've attached to Moodle. And you can also see that I'll have all of the answers right on here. But I do know that our costs in beginning inventory were $44,800. So I'm going to put that in there so I don't lose that. I also know that I incurred $200,000 of direct materials during May. That's what I added, and $87,200 of conversion costs. So my total costs that I put in process are $332,000. I also know that I had 8,000 units in beginning inventory, and I started 50,000 units. So I've got 58,000 units to account for, to figure out where they went. I'm sorry. And those units have a cost of $332,000. Now there's only 2 places these units can go. These units were either finished or not finished. So I read it, it says units in process at May 31st, so that's not finished, okay? I have students who have issues with figuring out whether that's transferred out in ending inventory, and honestly, it's just a matter of reading the words. Units in process, that means you're still in process, so they couldn't have been transferred out. And so I know that ending inventory had 10,000 units, and so I have 48,000 units that must have been transferred out, because I know this has to be 58,000 there also. There's only 2 things that can happen to our units. They either were finished or not finished. Now here's the problem. I know this 44,000 has to do with the units transferred out, but this 287,200 needs to be split between some were transferred out and some were not transferred out. So here's my problem. How do I figure out a cost per unit so I can split them between these? So I know this 48,000 includes 8,000 there, so I can say, all right, well, 40,000 and 10,000. So why don't I just simply do 4/5 and 1/5 of all these costs? That would make sense. But here's the problem, is these include all of the materials, because I added the materials at the beginning of the process, and these includes a certain percentage of the conversion cost. So let's go ahead and enter that. All right, so let me talk about this first. I got ahead of myself. I know there's only 3 stages of units. They're either I need to finish them, beginning inventory, I started and finished them, or I started them but didn't finish them. So again, let me restate that. My beginning inventory, I finish it, I start and finish these, and I start these but don't finish them. So now I need to ask myself, so this is going to be my direct materials column, and this is going to be my conversion cost column. Okay, so let's talk about percentages, and we just read. Notice, percentage of completion data. At May 1st, the materials were 100%. So if they're 100% complete, I get to add all of 0, because if they're already 100% complete, I don't want to add any more. The conversion costs were 80%. When I walk in the room, they're already 80% done. So if they're already 80% done, I do the other 20%. If I start something and finished it, I did 100% of the work on it. So that's always going to be 100%. My ending inventory, remember, I want what I did this period. So this period, if they're 100% done to materials, I must have done it all this period. And if they're 20% as done to conversion costs, these are also 20%. Don't get these mixed up. Because if I walk in the room and today I'm going to work on stuff. So let's say, assume I'm going to knit scarves. If I walk in the room and there are 8,000 scarves, that's quite a few scarves, I get that. If there are 8,000 scarves sitting there, 80% done, I do the remaining 20%. And then I do 40,000 more scarves, and then I start some but don't finish them. So this is the percent done this period, and this is the percent done last period. So if you really think about it, this line becomes beginning inventory of next period. Okay, this will be 10,000 units, and next period I will have to add 0 materials because they were added last period, and do 80% of the work next period because they're 20% done. All right, so now notice I include 0% of what I did last period in the equivalent units. So the idea of equivalent units is the idea that 2 half-done scarves take the same time as doing a completely done scarf, a full scarf. Or 20% done scarves would be the same as finishing, what is that? So 20% scarves would be the same as finishing 2 whole scarves, because I did 20% of the work on 10 of them. It's equivalent to 2 whole scarves. All right, so now since I include 0 of the units last period, I need to include 0 of the costs. This problem is a little easier because they didn't give you the breakout of the 44.8, so you can't make a mistake. So I just want the cost this period, so I'm going to take 20,000 divided by the equivalent of 50,000 scarves is 4. Now this 50,000 should be easy to see. I know I add the materials when I start them, so look. Right there. I started 50,000 and I came up with 50,000 that I added materials to. So that should make sense. The conversion costs, which are labor and overhead, it isn't quite as easy to see because of these percentages done. But I did the work on the equivalent of 43,600 new scarves. And this should not be dollar signs there. Okay, I'm back. I changed, had formatted it all to dollar signs and didn't delete those. So this is the equivalent of 43,600 scarves. And so I take my $200,000 of cost divided by my 50,000 scarves. I get $4 per scarf for materials. And I take my 87.2 divided by my 43.6. I get $2 per scarf. So that is the cost per equivalent unit. And again, it's the idea that 10,000 scarves, 20% done, are the same as making 2,000 complete scarves, equivalent units. All right, so now if you notice the green boxes, those are the ones that are transferred out. I transferred out beginning inventory and I transferred out what I started and completed. And these 10,000 units are left in ending inventory. So notice right here, what I have is I have 2 lines for beginning inventory and 1 line for started and completed, and that's my total transferred out. So beginning inventory and started and completed, and then I have 1 line for ending. So let's go to ending inventory because maybe it's easier. I have 10,000 units of direct materials at $4 each, so that's $40,000 worth of direct materials in ending inventory. And I have 2,000 units equivalent wise at $2 each, so I have 4,000 units of, or $4,000 in ending inventory. So that's 44,000. A quick way to do this would be to simply say, I know I've got a total of $332,000 worth of cost. Figure out your ending inventory, and everything else must be transferred out. So I could back into the 288. But let's figure out how it's 288. You take your beginning inventory, these costs are already there, so I transfer them out, And then I recompute this. So 0 times 4 is 0. 40,000 times 4 is 160,000. And then I have my beginning inventory costs, again 44,800. If I had them broken out, these two numbers would come down there, but I'm only caring about the total, so I don't necessarily need those broken out. 1,600 times 2 and 40,000 times 2 gives me 80,000. So my transferred out is made up of two lines, beginning inventory and starting completed, plus I have to take this beginning inventory costs on out. So I have 288 and 44.